If they can open their own door, what do they need Jeff Bezos to open it for?
There were many meetings with our founder, Jeff Bezos, where our engineers brought him some windows. He said, nope, make them bigger.
The women narrating this whole flight are dropping truth bombs and nobody's listening. One of the truth bombs they dropped is talking about how the windows are so big on the capsule, and Jeff Bezos kept saying, make them bigger, make them bigger. But windows on planes are small for a reason, for safety reasons, because it affects the structure of the plane, which also affects its aerodynamics. And this capsule is smaller than a plane.
I have gone through all of the training. They put you in the capsule that simulates all of this, including the sounds.
Going through all the simulations, all the training, everything that they're experiencing is in the simulation. Talk about this Blue Origin ladies in space nonsense. The reason we have to talk about this is because everybody is saying it's fake. And that is weird to me. It's obviously fake, yes. But the fact that the mainstream knows it's fake, that's some bizarre stuff. So the reason people are calling it fake is because the door opened before Bezos had a chance to open it himself from the outside. So they opened it from the inside first. But what about the CGI nonsense of the takeoff? What about the nonsense inside the capsule, where all we see are these ladies floating around and people are saying, oh, you can't fake that. Well, you certainly can fake it. What do you think Hollywood does all the time? And the fact that these ladies are not doing anything to pilot this thing. It's literally been thrown up in space. The engine part of this phallus-shaped thing has been detached. And so they're just floating up there for a few minutes with nothing. Nothing. There's nothing there. There's no engine. There's no pilot. There's nothing there for them to steer this thing. It's allegedly manned remotely from Earth. That is allegedly 60-something miles in the air. Can you pilot anything from 60-something miles away? No, you can't. You cannot pilot anything from that far away. People are not focusing on any of that because they want to say that this specific flight is fake. Not that all the other flights are fake. Not that everything else in space is fake. Just this one.
Space! Woo! We're doing astronaut training today. We're going to learn everything that you need to know to fly a nominal mission to space.
What's a nominal mission to space? Nominal is being in name only. Everything here is being done in name only.
It is my pleasure to tell you, you've passed. Does that make...
You've passed. There's no papers or anything in front of any of them. Like, all of the mugs are still in the original positions. All of the cups are still in the original positions. Everything's still in their packaging. They didn't do anything. They just sat down to make it look like they were doing something. They didn't do anything. Come on. This is dumb. And you notice how like the capsule's right here inside, and over here is like a screen that shows an Earth-like picture. That's really all it takes. They're showing you right here what they do.
Make you feel confident? Yes. Does that make you feel good?
It makes it start to feel even more real.
They're all so excited. They just sat down and they were told that they passed. Oh, look, Katie has a laptop. And so does this other Amazon wifey lady. She has a laptop. But they're all excited about it. They're not terrified at all about going up in a phallic device, getting left in space with no way of piloting the thing themselves, and then landing to Earth with a parachute. That doesn't terrify them at all. When we have seen SpaceX rockets and NASA rockets blow up.
What is the vibe of the New Shepard crew this morning now that the morning is finally here?
They call them crew, which is an embarrassment. They're not doing anything. Like, all of these space trips are embarrassing because every time they send people to space, they don't actually do any research. They're supposed to be scientists and astronauts, and they're supposed to be studying things, and they're supposed to be recording things, but all they ever do is they show these astronauts floating around in some sort of poorly designed atmosphere with wires and cables everywhere, stuff floating. They're floating so that you can tell that they're in space because they're floating. And then they're playing with these dolls and balls and all sorts of other weird things to show you how everything's floating. And they're not taking it seriously. If they don't take space seriously, why should we be taking space seriously? Because it's not happening. They're not going anywhere. They're not actually there. As long as the whole fakery of space is getting exposed, I don't really care. The other thing is their outfits. They look like they're going to go drive race cars, and yet they're supposed to be going to space. How many times do they tell us in the movies and with all these space launches with NASA about how important it is? Proper attire, it has to be vacuum sealed because there's a lack of oxygen in space. You have to be able to breathe. You have to be tested about breathing with a limited amount of oxygen. But no, we see all of these people in the ISS and all of these people in their space flights where they don't have any oxygen. They don't have any space suits. They're sitting there in their t-shirts and their khakis and they're totally fine. Oh, it's a pressurized cabin, just like a plane. So they have better technology now. So everybody has an excuse or an apology as to how it works. They just rationalize it away because, oh, that was old technology from the 70s, 80s, 60s. We don't have that technology anymore. We don't use that technology anymore. It's more sophisticated now. And yet all we see from the ISS is all these raw, exposed cables and not a smooth finished surface like in an airplane, which you would expect should be the standard. Why can't you have a finished environment like an airplane with all those cables put away, have them accessible if you need to, but put them away? Wouldn't that be safer instead of having them all exposed, that you could get caught on them or something could get caught on them, or you spill some fluid and it gets into the cables and then fries the circuitry? I mean, none of that makes any sense. But there's always somebody who can explain it away as to why it's like that.
Going to space, it's about what we bring back. And I get to go with 5 incredible women.
What makes them incredible? I mean, you got Gayle King and Katy Perry and Bezos' girlfriend or wife and the other people, I don't know who they are. Like, what qualifies them to go into space? Nothing. They're obviously, like, they said they were qualified and that they had graduated, but they didn't show us anything about their training at all. See, this is the other thing with all of these rockets. Where's this camera? And then there it goes.
Liftoff.
Looks like a
New
drone,
Shepard
maybe?
has cleared the tower.
No, it's CGI. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, who is filming this? Notice there's no clouds in the background, so you can't tell if it's passing anything.
6,000 feet climbing.
6,000 feet, and yet we can still get eyes on it.
Begin throttle down for Q limiting.
12,000 feet, we still have eyes on it.
Engine response looks good.
15, 16,000 feet. It's a pretty good camera. Oh, now we're getting pulled back all of a sudden.
Max Q, maximum dynamic
27,000 feet. 30,000 feet, we can still see it.
Mach
This
1,
is
vehicle
great.
is supersonic.
See, these ladies, they spend all of their time looking in the camera.
Look at the moon.
Okay, so there's the moon. And there is the fisheye lens Earth.
Oh my God. You see that?
Oh my God.
Okay, so if you recall, some time ago, we had Car in Space by Elon Musk, and he says you can tell it's real because it looks so fake. So this is using a fisheye lens as well. Now, this can be easily faked. You put this thing inside of a studio and you project an image of Earth all around it, and then you put wires on these women so that they can float. Then they can pretend to be in space. And that's how they do it in Hollywood.
What I wanted to do for the zero gravity sequences was to take an ordinary environment and achieve this very incongruous zero gravity effect. We did it through a number of different rigs, and in the final edit, what you see is shot to shot to shot. It tends to be a different orientation, a completely different rig in each shot. And I think that, more than anything else, really stops the audience seeing the trick of how these things are done.
The vertical corridor is supposed to be the same location as the horizontal corridor, and it's an identical set. The difference is that it has been built vertically, so it's standing on its end. And this means we can drop actors and stunt performers on wires down into the set, and the camera looks up at them. And they can then be raised or lowered, they can swing around inside the set, and it looks like they're floating in zero gravity.
In real zero-G, and I've actually spoken to people that have been in real zero-G, and what they told me is they've never felt so relaxed in their life. What I did is the exact opposite of that.
There's a full harness, legs and torso, and it's 4 strings, so you're fully suspended. And you're zero gravity. You lean up, you come up. You want to put your head down, you can go upside down. You just give it a little tap on whatever you're doing, and then they send you on the wires as far as you would want to go.
Gosh. I got you, Flynn.
Look, it's so important they're going to play with a stuffed toy.
These guys are playing soccer in a zero gravity plane. They look like they're floating, but they're actually free falling. The plane that they're in is hurtling toward the Earth at a 42-degree nosedive. Here, let me show you. These zero-G planes follow what's called a parabolic flight path. You remember parabolas from math class. So the whole flight path is split up into 3 phases. This is where the weightless zero gravity effect happens. So the plane takes off, reaches an upward angle of around 50 degrees. During this phase, people actually feel more gravity, 1.8 times normal. Once it gets there, pilots reduce speed and it looks like this. This is when people feel weightless. You're basically falling with the plane, so you'll think that you're floating. Then, once you hit about 42 degrees, the pilot increases speed again and you feel more gravity. Okay, now that I've explained how it works, who's gonna take me on a zero-G plane?
There comes the rocket down. It's going to relight its engine.
Now this is CGI. So the rocket detaches and leaves them up there hanging with nothing piloting them, nothing to control it. And then the rocket portion just falls down. And then it falls down, free fall, allegedly. And yet there's still a camera on it so that you know what's happening. Where's this camera?
It's going to relight its engine.
And now it's CGI. Doing the whole SpaceX reversal thing. If they can land this thing like this, why wouldn't they just bring the whole thing back down? Why does it need to detach? Because, look, this is a softer landing than the parachute. I mean, look at how gentle that is and how violent this is.
I have almost no words. It was
like she accomplished something. Imagine if you got off an airplane and acted like this, because that's essentially what happened here. Or going on a ride at, say, Canada's Wonderland.
It was the most incredible experience of my life.
I feel super connected to love. You never know how much love is inside of you.
I will never be the same. And there's no boundaries, there's no border, there's just Earth.
Now that I've done it, I really do feel I can take on anything.
No dream is too wild. If it's going to space, you can absolutely make it through, and it can absolutely be possible.
Yeah. So it sounds like a commercial, but they're not doing a very good job of selling it. I mean, who wants to go there now?
I don't think you can describe it. You look at it and you're like, we're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Where'd we hear that before? 2020 COVID. So this is why they have to separate the rocket from the capsule, because the rocket can't keep propelling the capsule. It can't go any higher. This is what we saw with the amateur rocket. Notice how the amateur rocket spun like crazy to the apogee and kept spinning until it slowed down only once it hit the dome. Then it deployed the parachute, and in the Blue Origin, the capsule is separated from the rocket so that the capsule floats like a zero-G plane to give the impression of no gravity, but there's no gravity. This is an illusion. As the woman who explained how a zero-G plane works, the plane goes on a steep rise, levels off, then nosedives to suspend people in flight. They create the experience of zero-G because there is no such thing as zero-G. There's no such thing as gravity. If there was, we wouldn't need a plane to simulate it. So space apologists will say that planes are used to create it because planes can't go high enough in order to reach zero gravity. But these same people will watch a flight like this and they will think it's real and that zero-G is real. So can you have it both ways? Either we can't fly that high and Blue Origin is fake and all other space flights are fake, or they are on a zero-G plane made to look like they are in space. So these people simply create the illusion of zero-G because regardless of whether they are in a studio or in a zero-G plane, it is still fake.
328,000 feet, 100 kilometers. Welcome to space, ladies, or shall I say, astronauts. And there, they have hit apogee, the highest point in flight, well over 345,000 feet, well over the Kármán line. On the bottom, that is the rocket that is screaming back down to Earth. The rocket will beat the capsule to its landing spot just 2 miles north of where it's taken off from. At the top of the rocket, you see a couple of fins that have popped out. Those are to stabilize the rocket as it comes into land. Shortly thereafter, you will see the drag brakes that deploy that will cut the speed of the rocket in half. And then in the last moments,
and there it is. We can see it from the stage.
There comes the rocket down. It's going to relight its engine. We're going to also see a sonic boom. We're going to hear that shortly here.
And remember, this is something that had never been done before until just a few years ago. Truly the stuff of science fiction that you're about to watch in just seconds.
Drag
there we
brakes.
go.
CGI.
Shortly here, we're waiting to see the drogue parachutes deploy.
I'm comparing these two because the first part of the rocket came down at a speed of 2,000 miles per hour, and this is coming down at 200, but the distance is 5,000 versus 50,000. So how fast was this capsule falling at 50,000 feet before this parachute deployed? That's my question. So what's the G-force of all of this? They tell us that it's only 3, but I think that it's got to be greater than 3.
From the crew capsule, those are like the guide parachutes. There go the drogue parachutes.
Just free falling right there until those drogues came out.
And then next will be the main parachutes that get pulled out.
Hear that screaming inside the capsule?
And all 3 parachutes reefing. And I tell you, Kristen, from having gone through all of the simulations, I have gone through all of the training. They put you in the capsule that simulates all of this, including the sounds, and when you hear the motors of the parachutes pop out, that is the best moment in flight.
Going through all the simulations, all the training, everything that they're experiencing is in the simulation.
I know, Blue Origin does everything they can to make this as safe as possible, and y'all have an impact.
How is this safe? I mean, considering you are separated and you have no control over this thing, and then it just free falls, and you have to rely on parachutes to land? What if they don't open? You know, how is this safer than landing back on the platform with the rocket that took you up there in the first place? Because the rocket landed nice and gently on target in the right spot, is controlled by somebody on the ground, allegedly. So wouldn't that be safer?
Yes,
That's normal.
a puff of dust, last milliseconds, air cushion that will kick up the dust. It's a very soft landing despite the sporty perception. There it is.
A case of believe what I say, not what you see. It doesn't look soft to me.
Her
the
mouth,
door
but really her
opens.
heart when
And
she
is that Jeff Bezos out there right by the capsule? Kind of hard to see.
That is correct.
Okay, so the door opens, like why? You know, he seems to need this device to open the door. It's supposed to be sealed tight so that they're safely locked inside. But could you imagine if something goes wrong? Again, safety issue. Something goes wrong and it lands miles and miles and miles away and they don't have a crew to go get them and they don't know where it landed because they don't have GPS or whatever. How are they going to get out? If they can't even open their own door, how are they going to get out? They got to wait for Jeff Bezos to show up so that he can open the door with his little tire iron. Like, it doesn't make any sense why they would design it this way. Surely you would have a way of opening the door from the inside, which they obviously do because they just opened it. If they can open their own door, what do they need Jeff Bezos to open it for?
Over a third of the surface area of this craft is windows.
Waiting for everyone to get here.
There were many meetings with our founder, Jeff Bezos, where our engineers brought him some windows. He said, nope, make them bigger.
The women narrating this whole flight are dropping truth bombs and nobody's listening. One of the truth bombs they dropped is talking about how the windows are so big on the capsule, and Jeff Bezos kept saying, make them bigger, make them bigger. But windows on planes are small for a reason, for safety reasons, because it affects the structure of the plane, which also affects its aerodynamics. And this capsule is smaller than a plane.
They come back. Nope, that's nice, but make them bigger.
Good? Okay, here we go.
Here goes Jeff Bezos to open the hatch.
She didn't really close it again. Come on out, guys.
It's just embarrassing.